Most people will watch this and get angry. Good. That means it hit something real, the lie they built around you. Here's what nobody actually says out loud. The people closest to you are probably holding you back. Not because they're evil, because they don't even realize they're doing it. You've got this picture in your head, right? Loyal family, friends who want the best for you, a support system, and for most people, that picture is a lie they've been living inside since they were kids. Look, I'm not here to tell you your mom doesn't love you. I'm saying love and damage can come from the same person. At the same time, through the same conversation, think about the last time you told someone close to you about something you were trying to build. A plan, a goal, something real you were working toward. What happened? Did they get quiet? Did they list every reason it probably wouldn't work? Did they compare you to someone who tried something like that and failed? That's not concern, that's fear wearing a mask. Their fear projected onto you. The messed up part is, you probably thanked them for it. Called it keeping you grounded. Nobody talks about how the people who love you the most are sometimes the ones most threatened by you changing. Because if you grow, the dynamic shifts, and they can't handle that. So they keep you small, with guilt, with obligation, with that look on their face when you don't call back fast enough, with I just worry about you. You've heard it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a phrase, old concept, luktan badnan, roughly translated. Don't be bound by blood. It sounds cold. I know. It sounds like something a guy with no conscience would say. But honestly, the cold version of that idea might be the most honest thing anyone's ever told you. It's not about hating the people around you. It's about seeing them clearly, without the story you've wrapped around them. Because the version of your mom, your cousin, your childhood friend, that exists inside your head, that's fiction. The real person is messier than that, and their needs will cost you. The ones who say they want the best for you are often the ones most comfortable with you staying exactly where you are. The people who love you most are running the oldest code. Let me give you a real example. Not hypothetical. This actually happens. Guy's grinding, building something. Every hour he's not at his job. He's working on the thing he actually cares about. He's tired. But it's the good kind of tired. His mom calls, needs him to drive a relative across town. Rush hour. Middle of his most focused part of the day. He offers to call a car. Pay for it himself. She goes quiet. Then hangs up. He drives the relative. Of course he does. Because the guilt was already doing its job. Here's what that interaction was actually about. Not the ride. Not the relative. It was about who decides how his time gets spent. She didn't think his time was worth protecting. Not consciously. She wasn't being cruel. She just genuinely didn't see it as valuable. Because he hadn't proven it yet. Because to her, he was still just her kid. And that's the part that'll mess you up if you think about it too long. The people who've known you the longest are working off the oldest version of you. They're not updating the file. They're still treating you like the person you were at 17. At 12, at whatever age they locked you in, you could have a six-figure income and they'd still ask you to move furniture on a Saturday, like your weekend doesn't mean anything. And you'll do it. Because somewhere deep in your nervous system, their disapproval still feels like a threat. That's not weakness. That's conditioning. Years of it. Here's the psychology nobody explains cleanly. When you're young, the approval of the people around you is literally survivals. You need them, biologically. So your brain learns to read their moods, adjust, shrink, do whatever keeps the temperature in the room manageable. Problem is, that program doesn't just turn off when you get older. It runs in the background, all the time. Every time someone close to you gets that tone in their voice, your chest tightens. You feel it. And suddenly you're negotiating with yourself about whether your goals are even realistic. Because somebody sighed at you. That's not a small thing. That's your entire future getting quietly redirected by someone else's unprocessed anxiety. And the worst part, they don't even know they're doing it. Most people in your life aren't malicious. They're just unconscious, living on autopilot, running the same patterns their parents ran on them, passing it down like it's normal, because to them, it is. Poor people don't just stay poor because of money. They stay poor because everyone around them is most comfortable when nobody moves. Think about that for a second. When someone in a struggling family starts making real money, what happens? Does everyone celebrate? Sometimes on the surface. But watch closer, suddenly there are more requests, more obligations, more guilt trips when you say no, more comments about how you've changed, how you think you're better than everyone now. You haven't changed, you just stopped being convenient. That's what they're actually reacting to, not your success, your unavailability. Because when you were broke and stuck, you were accessible. You had time, you had need. You were part of the ecosystem. Now you're not, and that ecosystem is trying to pull you back in, not because they hate you, because systems don't like losing parts. Look, I'm not telling you to become a robot. I'm not saying cut everyone off and live in isolation. I'm saying see it clearly. See the mechanism, because the moment you see it clearly, it loses most of its power over you. Most people never see it. They just feel vaguely guilty their whole lives and never know why they can't seem to get anywhere. They spend 40 years wondering why they feel stuck, never once connecting it to the 100 small moments where someone they loved quietly talked them out of themselves. They didn't need to lock the door. They just made you feel too guilty to walk through it. A net loss is still a loss. All right. No more warm-up. Here's the thing, nobody wants to say directly. Most of the people in your life are a net loss. Not emotionally, mathematically, time you spent managing their feelings, energy you spent explaining yourself, focus you burned trying to get them to understand something they were never going to understand. Add it up. That's not pessimism. That's accounting, and you already know it's true. You've known for a while. You just keep calling it something nicer. They mean well, sure. Meaning well doesn't stop the bleeding. Here's a truth that's going to land wrong. The reason people talk about feelings, loyalty, and obligation so much is usually because they don't have anything else to offer. Think about it. The people in your life who are actually building something, do they spend a lot of time lecturing you about family values? About how you've changed? About what you owe people? No, they're busy. They've got their own thing. They're not monitoring you. It's always the people going nowhere who have the most opinions about where you're headed. Always. There's an old saying, a gentleman does not think beyond his station, meaning know what lane you're in. Focus on your actual work. Stop narrating other people's lives. Most people do the opposite. They've got no real momentum of their own. So they draft off of other people's drama, come on it, judge it, forward it. It feels like engagement. It's actually just noise, expensive noise. Every hour you spend in someone else's mess is an hour you didn't spend on the thing that could actually change your situation. And situations don't change themselves. You know that. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Your parents, I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm saying they're human, fully, messily, sometimes selfishly human. And if they haven't figured their own lives out, they cannot give you a working map for yours. They can give you warmth, sure, but warmth and wisdom are not the same thing. And accepting bad directions from someone who loves you still leaves you lost. If your parents consistently interrupt your focus, undervalue your time, or make you feel guilty for prioritizing your own future, then staying close to that isn't loyalty. It's self-destruction with a family-friendly label. Your blood doesn't automatically know what's good for you. Neither does your hometown, your old friends, or anyone else who knew you before you started becoming someone different. Take a breath. Now here's the part people really hate. Success has a social cost, a real one. Nobody warns you about it. The higher you go, the more the old relationships strain. Not because you're arrogant, because the distance creates pressure. And most people in your old life will blame you for that pressure. They'll say you changed. They'll say you got cold. They'll say money messed you up. What actually happened is simpler. You stopped being easy to take advantage of. That's it. That's the whole thing. When you had nothing, your time was free, your attention was available, your guilt was accessible. Now it's not. And they call that changing. The messed up part is you'll second guess yourself. You'll wonder if they're right. You'll soften, backpedal, over-explain. Don't. Here's what's actually real. When you start making serious money, people around you get careful. Not because they respect you more as a person, because crossing you has consequences now. That's not cynical. That's just how social hierarchies actually function. Humans are wired for it. The person who couldn't get a call back suddenly has a full inbox when they're running something. The relative who dismissed your ideas is real quiet now that those ideas are paying off. They didn't become better people. The math just changed. So stop waiting for people to understand you before you have leverage. They won't. Understanding comes after the proof, not before, never before. And if you're sitting around trying to get approval from people who haven't done what you're trying to do, you're asking the wrong room for directions. You wouldn't ask someone who's never left their town for advice on navigating a city they've never seen, but you'll let them talk you out of going. That's the trap. That's exactly the trap. They can't see where you're going because they've never been anywhere. Stop describing the destination to people who are afraid of the road. Clear eyes, empty room, just work. So where does that leave you? Not inspired, not motivated, just clear. Maybe for the first time in a while. Here's the cold version of hope. It's not believe in yourself. It's not your time is coming. It's this, the world is not going to adjust for you, not even a little, but it will respond to results. Quietly, consistently, without any announcement. The people who ignored you will get careful. The people who doubted you will get quiet. Not because they changed, because the math changed. That's not beautiful. But it's reliable, and reliable is more useful than beautiful. Look, you can spend the next 10 years Trying to get the people around you to finally see you, to finally get it, to finally stop making your growth harder than it needs to be, or you can just build quietly, consistently, without explaining yourself to anyone. One of those paths has an ending that works. The other one doesn't. You already know which is which. Here's the thing about cutting through the noise. It's not dramatic. Nobody films the moment you stop answering the calls that drain you. Nobody documents the morning you decide your time actually has value. It just happens, quietly, like a door closing softly instead of slamming. And then one day you look up and you've built something, not because someone believed in you, not because the circumstances got easier, because you stopped letting the wrong people rent space in your head for free. That's it. That's the whole mechanism. The ancient version of this idea is simple. Take care of yourself first. Then, and only then, take care of others. Not because you're selfish, because you're useless to everyone, including yourself. If you're running on empty, trying to fill other people's tanks, you can't bleed for people who wouldn't notice the wound. The cheapest way to wake up is to read the right words at the right time. The most expensive way is to let life do it for you. Most people choose expensive. So here's what I'm actually saying. Not to cut everyone off. Not to become someone who trusts nobody. Just to see it. See the mechanism clearly. See who actually costs you and who doesn't. See whose voice in your head is yours. And whose was installed by someone who needed you small. That last one, sit with that one. How much of what you believe about your own limits was put there by someone who couldn't afford for you to have none? Think about that. Really think about it. Because the ceiling you keep hitting might not be yours. It might be borrowed from someone who gave up and quietly handed it to you so they wouldn't have to feel alone under it. 10 years of focused work. Not perfect work. Not inspired work. Just consistent. The serious, undistracted work. Most people can't do it. Not because they're not capable. Because they never cleared enough space to try. The noise was too loud. The obligations were too heavy. The guilt was too well trained. You clear the space. You do the work. The outcome is not guaranteed. But staying where you are that's the actual choice. Not safe versus risky. Slow death versus uncertain forward motion. Pick one. The people who never tried will always have better reasons than you. They've had more time to develop them. That's all I've got. No send-off. No call to action. You either heard something real just now or you didn't. If you did, you know what to do with it.